Hello everyone, I'm Shahad Makiza and welcome to the Refinitiv Perspectives live 24-hour special event. Today we are running an episode on the hour, every hour, all the way through to tomorrow, 11 a.m. SGT. Be sure to join the event group to get access to all of the day's content and videos, and don't forget to subscribe to the blog below. I will be starting, and Laura Sartenaer is going to join me for the natural language processing. Welcome, Laura, to the first episode from my side.
Hi, Shahad. Thank you for having me.
Hello, Laura. Thanks for joining us. As just mentioned, we will be talking about natural language processing. You are an ecosystem manager for Refinitiv Labs. Maybe you can give us a quick introduction so that everyone is aware what we'll be talking about, which direction this will be heading, what is NLP, and or maybe how would you define it, so we can have a better start to that.
Yeah, it's probably a good place to start. So I'm going to be brief here, but I'm also going to try to explain this quite simply. But in layman's terms, it's basically the branch of artificial intelligence, so AI, that helps machines make sense of unstructured data. And when we say unstructured data, what we're really talking about is language. So basically, NLP tries to break this language or data down into words or tokens and attempts to understand the relationships between these tokens. And by the way, Shahad, it's all around us in our daily lives. So machine translation, Google Translate, Siri. I won't mention the one beginning with A or she'll wake up next to me. But all of that is very much an NLP engine driving it. It's a machine that understands your text or your speech. And I would say one caveat is don't be fooled by the simplistic definition. It's much more complex in practice. And there's actually quite a good quote that I read recently, which I think sums up this complexity quite nicely. But it was John Rupert Firth. He was a linguist many moons ago. And he said, we know the nature of a word by the company it keeps. And I think that's exactly where the complexity lies. It's this contextual element. So a machine, for example, knowing when it reads a news article that Apple is referring to the company and not the fruit.
True. So if we're talking about that now, why why does it matter? Where does NLP matter in today's society or in the context that you just mentioned?
Yeah, well, I think many reasons, so bear with me, but we're witnessing some really interesting market and technology dynamics that I think are creating real opportunity for NLP in finance. So firstly, there's the whole data angle. The NLP story is a data story. You can't discuss NLP without discussing data. And we all know, we work for Refinitiv, there's been an exponential growth in data over the past few decades. There's some amazing stats out there that really emphasize this. And my favorite Refinitiv one is that we deliver 150 billion data updates to our customers each day. And that number's growing year on year. So we know the importance of data. We know that it's growing. But this growth has led to the success of statistics on steroids, or AI, as we call it. And what's actually quite interesting is that 80% of the data out there is unstructured. So although our customers have actually built their businesses around crunching numbers, we've actually seen structured data become largely democratized over the past 5 or so years. And the pandemic has only accelerated this trend. I mean, quantitative data practically disappeared in Q1 of last year. And so the pandemic, and then actually just a tougher economic climate all round, has led firms to try to make the most of their workforce, which again makes NLP even more relevant. Our customers are trying to remove labor-intensive manual text work, allowing them to scale up massively and actually redeploy much of their human capital. And oh, sorry, just a couple more points. But if you add all of this to the fact that NLP itself has seen huge advancement over the past few years, you've got better language models thanks to great research in academia, better computing power, open source technology. I mean, it's a perfect storm. And we saw these trends totally echoed in our AI and machine learning survey that we published in 2020. It really showed how our customers were leveraging unstructured data more than ever before. And my last point before you jump in with the next question.
Yeah, because I have questions in my head now, just trying to catch up on.
But I want to say one more thing, which you asked me why it matters. And as a colleague said to me quite recently, we don't communicate in numbers, which I think is so true. You know, information is encoded in language. Information powers the world that we live in. It powers financial services, and whether it's to increase revenue or cut costs, it's all about that information edge. So I'll pause for breath, Shahad. I know you're ready for your next question.
You mentioned unstructured data before. That's when it got into my head, because I believe a lot of people will understand your definition and will know what could or where this could be used. But do you have maybe like a major use case that you can share with us, just to give us a bit more context in terms of not only the definition, but where we're going with this setup?
I'm so glad you've asked this, because I think we have to be really careful in these conversations not to be tech driven, but actually think about use cases and real applications. And we wouldn't be talking about this tech if the use cases weren't delivering real value. And there's so many of them. So you asked for one, which is going to be a struggle, but there's so many, because it's relevant ultimately. If you think about it, it's relevant anywhere that textual data exists, and textual data exists across the entire capital markets value chain, from pre-trade to post-trade workflows. So even if you think vertical by vertical, you've got textual data and opportunity in your operations, risk, sales, customer support, so many others. And the use cases themselves are actually born out of NLP tasks like classification, summarization, topic modeling, sentiment analysis. But I do find it helpful actually to almost frame the use cases and think about them falling into two broad categories. So one is a whole set of use cases that actually, where you use NLP to increase efficiency or cut costs. Mm-hmm. And the other is more about generating revenue or finding alpha. So in the first category, it's all about information retrieval, document processing and reconciliation, search. And so examples include actually trying to automate much of the investment research process. Mm-hmm. We saw one of our customers actually used named entity recognition to digest all text that relates to an asset's price. And actually, even in the labs last year, we used NLP and Google's language model BERT to try to identify ESG controversies in news data. And so another hot topic that I'm sure you're going to be asking.
I was just going to say, that's going to come up quite often.
100%.
So, yeah, because I believe a lot of people don't, or maybe they get the idea, like just mentioned, but they probably don't know, okay, what use case does fit my problem, or is there a solution also for me? So it's really nice to get an overview on what's possible.
Totally. There's also there's a few more if you'll permit me.
Yeah, sure.
There's the whole robo advisory world, so digital financial advisors, chatbots as well. They are totally NLP driven. And then there's all of risk and compliance. So lots of opportunity there to actually use sentiment analysis in negative news media. And true. Media Check, which I'm sure you're familiar with, our product does exactly that. And then on the finding alpha side, you can leverage NLP across the entire workflow for idea generation, opportunity scanning, event detection, sentiment prediction, trend spotting as well. I don't know do you know Sentimine? It's been a real success.
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit about everything more or less, but I'm not. So it really is super interesting to get like a deep dive into these subjects. So feel free to explain not only to me, but to our audience as well.
So Centermine, basically, again, it was a labs project, but it's moving into production, and essentially it leverages NLP, so sentiment analysis, to actually trawl through equity research reports and transcripts of earning calls to try to identify the major drivers of equity performance. And it's gone down a real treat with our buy side customers, as you can imagine. There's so many more use cases, but I'll pause there and see if you've got any other questions for me, Shahad.
Maybe within those, the idea of what is possible, I believe there are a couple of challenges as well. There must be in thinking about the amount of information, the amount of data sets and data itself, and the information that we're getting. Maybe you can tell us a bit about the challenges as well that you are facing, customers are facing, whatever the case might be.
Exactly. We're all facing the same challenges, which is helpful at least. But you're right, as with any emerging technology or exciting technology, there are challenges. So I guess the first bucket of challenges is that NLP takes both time and investment. So models need to be built, they need to be tested, rebuilt, refreshed, and all of that can be a bit of a challenge for a large corporation like Refinitiv or many of our customers where, time is of the essence. It's very fast paced. And some applications can actually require a fair bit of an investment as well. So a good example is Erica. Maybe our American viewers are more familiar with her, although I'm not sure they'll be awake yet. But Erica is Bank of America's chatbot. It's been a real success story. The application has completed over 100 million customer requests, but equally, it took over 100 people to develop it. It can also be quite computationally expensive, but open source can be a good way to get around some of this cost. I know that N26, so the mobile bank, has leveraged open source software to develop something similar. Oh yeah, you're in Germany, which is why you're nodding. Just remembered. And then the whole second category is something actually that you just mentioned, which is the data. So the data sets that we're talking about here, they weren't created with machines in mind. Unstructured data is unsurprisingly unstructured. Much of the NLP workflow is spent actually trying to clean, pre-process and prepare this data for NLP to take place. And I know that that's the number one challenge that our research scientists face as well. It's actually labeling and annotating this data. These can be quite noisy data sets as well. So even high quality news wasn't prepared or designed with machines in mind. And then you've got the whole world of social media, which you and I know, there can be a lot of rubbish out there.
Yeah, so sorting that out is also definitely, it must be also part of it. So
exactly.
Cleaning the data is probably also a big part of really getting the information that you need and want, and everything is set up the right way. So probably that's also a big issue.
Absolutely. And this dirty data can really send models spinning. It introduces a real level of fragility into the models that we're all relying on more and more. Couple of other challenges to mention. You're going to regret asking this question.
But no. Everyone should be aware. So, everyone should be aware, everyone should be prepared as well. So it's probably super interesting to see what you can, I like to say or to keep in mind that you're also learning from the mistakes of others and not only your own. So it's super helpful, I believe, for a lot of people who are just building up things to really know what this what this can be about and what challenges I might face if I start to build something up in that direction.
You're so right, Shahad, because actually this community more than most knows about helping each other and coming together. Open source technology is exactly that element. It's not so much about IP, it's more about actually building on the shoulders of greats. So explainability is another challenge. It's a critical problem in the field of NLP. Machines don't tend to provide explanations for the predictions that they make. Yeah. And then the last thing that I will mention is talent. So you need people who not only understand NLP, but actually really understand the financial domain. And I read Deloitte's paper recently, actually, really interesting paper that completely confirms this. There are skills gaps at companies of every level of AI sophistication, and even more so in the pandemic. You know, customers are looking for ways to find automation and efficiency gains. NLP promises just that, but the pool doesn't seem to be growing rapidly enough, at least according to this Deloitte report.
So we not only need the software solution, the setup, and the data that feeds it, and then the next step will be sorting that out, cleaning all that dirty data, like you mentioned, or the information that we do not need, and then also, of course, I'm happy that you're saying this, that it's not just the machine that you're actually needing, but also the people sitting in front with the expertise and everything they are putting into this whole project. So it's really nice to have like both sides and what's important in a combination.
Totally, it's a partnership between the machine and the people. You're so right.
If I mean, we've heard about the challenges now. So if we're trying to get it to a bit more, let's say, positive step, looking forward, because this is like the idea of this episode as well, to see where is this going, what can we expect. So looking at what do you think is like the next big thing for NLP, or what's the next generation step, if you want to put it in that words?
Yeah, nice. I'm glad that this answer is going to be a bit more positive, as you said. So two things spring to mind. Firstly, there is the whole world of non-verbal communication. So there's a lot of investment from a time and money perspective into how machines can not only understand what we say, but also how we say it, which is quite interesting if you think about our move to virtual working environments and body language or biometrics for facial recognition. You go to a customer and you understand they might say they like what you're showing them, but does their face say something else? Which is, I mean, that introduces a whole host of problems that we won't go into now, but very interesting.
We can soon if you want. We're gonna make a special episode for that.
Yeah, exactly. And then totally separately, but something that we're exploring at Refinitiv that I think is so exciting is how we actually provide our customers with NLP models as a service, essentially trained on the data sets that we're so fortunate to have. And that will allow our customers to train their models using our models, which could and should enable a dramatic improvement in performance. So watch this space. It's a really exciting.
That's probably also when they're going to save time. Exactly.
Save time. Totally. And also generate revenue and find alpha. Of course. Both sides of the coin. It's fascinating.
Okay, perfect. I believe we've come to an end. These were the questions that we wanted to ask you, wanted to understand the whole subject. So I'm very happy that you took the time to join us for this 24-hour special of Refinitiv Perspectives Live. So thanks for joining and have a nice day. Thanks everyone else also for joining this conversation with Laura. And if you enjoyed this episode, you can also download the recent machine learning survey report, The Rise of the Data Science, by scanning the code or going to the link on the screen now below. And as always, thank you for joining us, and be sure to stay tuned for the next episode. It's going to be again in 40 minutes. So I hope to see you soon.